we have a problem in this country, and it's mainly on the left. Let's talk to Thin Blue Line Lawyer. He's the founder of that. He's author of When Cops Kill. He's a former cop. He does so much I can't do it, or if I did his bio, we'd not talk about the topic. Lance LoRusso's on the live line. Hi, Lance.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Shorten the bio, damn it. Okay. I do the same thing. Everyone wants to read every award I've ever won. I'm like, just say I work on the radio. We're good. All right.
Well, I have a face for radio, so that's why they put me on here. So we're good.
Well, I don't, but I don't like to wear makeup, so radio's where I'm at. All right. So, Lance, we just had 173 Democrats and Democrat hopefuls or candidates vote against even funding the police, saying that you are the reason that is creating a culture of criminalization. And I just shake my head and I think these are going to be the first people who call the cops when something happens to them. They're going to be the first ones. But yet, I don't get the mentality. Can you explain it to me? Because I can't wrap my head around it.
Well, it's kind of, it's the A word, and it's not the A word that a lot of your folks are thinking about. It's the accountability word. The whole concept of criminality, criminal law, jurisprudence on the criminal side, sentencing, all of it is based on accountability. You have an action, you committed the action. Was the action justified under the law, so the conduct should be excused at law or not? If it's not excused at law, you didn't kick a door in to save a 7-year-old from a burning building. If you kicked the door in to steal a stereo, then you should be held accountable. And that A word is getting people really twisted up. And I've been watching this for years when people say, well, we have too many people in prison. Well, are they in prison because they're being held accountable? Is the law unjust? Now, if the law is unjust, if the law needs to be fixed, are we putting people in jail because they did something and it wasn't their fault, then that's a problem. But if people are breaking into cars, like in Atlanta famously, we had somebody who was caught breaking into cars 90 times. Now, I know I'm on a radio, 90 times. And he was given bond each time. That's an accountability problem. That's not a criminality problem.
So when do we hold the DAs responsible or the judges? When do we start doing that? Because they should be accountable, too, when these guys get let out, and girls.
Well, and they are, and it's pretty interesting. They are, but the rules are in place to hold them accountable, but they're not used. So in a big picture, we want judges to have the flexibility to look at a situation and give a just sentence. We want them to be able to make, as one judge I know said, I just call balls and strikes at trials. My job is to make sure the trial stays fair, and then when the sentencing comes, I have to keep all of the factors in place. But when we have repeated issues where they are violating their oaths of office, there are methods to keep them accountable. Again, that accountability word, the question is whether or not people have the intestinal fortitude to file a barred complaint, to remove somebody from the bench. And certainly we've seen that happen, but it doesn't happen very often.
All right. Now I'm going to jump to, the San Bernardino cop, I think it was San Bernardino, somewhere, or Sacramento, I can't remember, but he is a county sheriff, and he was just like, no, we're not letting people who just claim that they're dying and then we have to let them out of jail because of some stupid law they have there, and then they try to kill cops and they go back to jail and say they're dying and they get let out again, then they try to kill cops. It's like a revolving door in California because of some stupid rule that has some sort of sympathy for criminals who are dying who shouldn't die in jail. I'm like, let them die there. If they tried to kill a cop, leave them there. Those sorts of laws need to go away, but they're never going to. But a grandmother in Tennessee was arrested because somebody created an AI picture that was a match with photo identification technology that police use. And she was arrested and spent 5 months in jail. And it kind of ruined her life, not going to lie. But everybody wants to blame the cops. I'm like, why don't you blame the person who created that image? You blame the AI company, blame the person who created that, because they all want to sue the Tennessee government now or the Tennessee police for holding this woman, but she matched the description perfectly, but it wasn't her. So AI is going to be a problem.
Yeah, and just stepping back one, those things about getting people out of jail when they're terminally ill and things, or have other circumstances. Those sound really good at cocktail parties, but they tend to not. You're basically extending an extensive amount of mercy to that individual when they may not have extended that to their victims or to society in general. So that's where the imbalance is.
He tried to kill cops. That's why they didn't care.
Yeah, and so far as the AI, AI is really interesting. I went to a law enforcement conference, and everybody was flipped out about AI and the coming wave of AI. This is about 4 or 5 years ago. And then I went to an entrepreneurs conference, a group called Strategic Coach that I belonged to for about 10 years. And they were giddy. They were like school kids. They just could not wait until the opportunities, and there are tremendous opportunities with AI.
Yeah.
The problem is that it takes growing pains. There was a tremendous amount of technology that had to develop around everything from video surveillance and where can we put video? Can we record video? You had recording laws that said you could be a party to a recording, and it was, as long as it was an audio recording, it was okay. But once you added video, it was a problem. Some states didn't acknowledge that, and when an officer walked into a house with a body camera, until they fixed the law, they were committing a felony by videotaping without permission. So when you look at AI, it's just a matter of the technology and the rules catching up. And going back to the use of AI kind of for criminal actions and in court, one of the important things, there's two elements to me representing cops. As you know, I've represented about 191 officers as of last week in shootings. And we have two elements we have to deal with now. So far as preserving the integrity in court, in 2016, I had a case where we had to tell the court up front, look, I'm going to show you the video from the officers, from a bystander. At the time, it was a cell phone camera. But there are fakes out on the Internet. So that was 2016. It was 10 years ago. But we now have situations where somebody in their basement can make a deep fake that's dangerous. In court, we have ways to fix that. We have experts we can bring in. Axon has a tremendous way of preserving with a high integrity the body camera to make sure that what comes into court is proper and it hasn't been altered. And if it is altered, we can tell. The bigger problem is the open source, if you will, on the media, what I call them when cops kill, the informal media, someone doctoring a videotape of an officer using force and promulgating it so widely that that becomes the narrative.
Yeah, which is generally a lie, and it's happening everywhere, so people need to know it. Just last night, I think it was, the kid with the squirt gun and the cop deciding not to shoot him. I mean, that was a miracle that that kid didn't get shot. But those are the games that people like to play with police. And it's really difficult to understand the logic behind, the stupidity behind people who play these kind of games because, you could die. So, and then, of course, everybody'd have an upheaval and blame the police. So you can't win for losing. But these AI videos look really, really real. And then people circulate them on the Internet. And the Internet crazies like to dox the police, and they ruin their careers and scare their families, and they have to move, and it's a whole thing. So what are we doing about that? Is there anything we can do about that?
Well, law enforcement is doing a great deal about it. They have been working on this problem for years and setting up not only guardrails to make sure that what comes into court is authentic. We also have rules of evidence that help with that. But they're also pushing people to give them evidence at the outset when an incident occurs. So somebody who's eating meatloaf and Doritos in their basement doesn't have a chance to doctor the cell phone video that they have. Mm-hmm. And that's where you see law enforcement calling for videos, saying, hey, if you have video of this incident, give it to us. And I've told officers, I teach law enforcement officers all over the country, and I have cases in several different states. If you have an officer-involved shooting, if you have a use of force, you need to get that camera. You need to get that video from the surveillance across the street. You need to get it as quickly as possible and preserve it so we can have some integrity, just like any other piece of evidence you would gather. So as I was talking about with the technology, the foundations are in place to preserve the integrity. We just need to apply them to the new technology, including drone footage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great idea. I have 6 cameras pointing towards the street at my house and like 4 others that point in the other direction. So if somebody comes to my yard, I immediately tell them, because I don't know if it's illegal or not to record people without their knowledge. So I tell them verbally, and I have signs up to say everything you do within this area of my house is being recorded with audio and video. So you have no privacy on my property whatsoever. I'm watching, it's watching, and you'll probably hear my phone going off because my dogs are barking. Every little thing, I see it. So if ever there's a problem in front of my house, a car accident or anything, I have the footage, but it overwrites in 90 days. So y'all have to act fast when things like this happen.
We do, especially with cell phones, because cell phone videos can get disturbed, they can get lost. That's one of the things I encourage officers is to go up to somebody and say, look, we have you on the dash cam recording this. Please email me the video. I don't need to take your phone. I can, because it has evidence on it. Mm-hmm. But please email me the video so we can preserve it in time. It was taken this time before someone has a chance to change it. And what's really interesting, the people who are worried about Big Brother watching them because of all this surveillance cameras around, and I can't drive to the grocery store without a license plate reader, an LPR, figuring out I'm there. The same folks who were singing about Big Brother taking over the world in the 60s and 70s folk songs now have Alexa in their house listening to everything they're saying. So
and she won't shut up. Yes.
Yeah, and you could, and the convenience is that I don't have to get off the couch to order something from Amazon. So it's a matter of what people are comfortable with, and I think that a couple of years from now, people are going to recognize that AI is it's a very useful tool. It helps law enforcement a lot, and it can be used to speed up investigations, process tons and tons of information very, very quickly. But there have to be guardrails.
Right. And you need AI authentication teams. And I've got 1 minute left. So with that being said, Lance, where do people learn about you and get all your books? And if a cop has found himself in an AI crap-episode, I call them, how do they get a hold of you?
I might have to trademark that. That's a great word.
I'm just telling you, it's a crap-episode.
BlueLineLawyer.com, founder of the Blue Line Lawyer Institute. You can also get the books on Amazon because you can get everything on Amazon. Yeah. And so far as the cops, the FOP Legal Defense Plan, Fraternal Order of Police Legal Defense Plan, FOPlegal.com, there is no better plan.
Okay, and if you do trademark crap-episode, you have to write me in as a co-author.
Oh, absolutely. I will give you credit every time I use it.
Lance LoRusso, founder, Thin Blue Line Lawyer. He's also an author of When Cops Kill, Defunding Could Weaponize Against the Police, and AI is going to be a bigger problem. Thank you, Lance.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.